Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me. Now, I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm going to react to a comment. And this comment comes from Just Jen Reacts. She's clearly a right wing conservative here on YouTube. Decided she'd come after a small little creator like me and leave this little nugget. Trump actually advocated for the LGBT community back before anyone did, with Muhammad Ali, actually. So I think you ought to shut off CNN and MSNBC. Your rhetoric is false at best. What you're saying here is false. No teacher should be teaching children anything sexual in nature, nor should they be hiding anything from us parents, period. Not all parents are bigoted idiots, so no, I don't get your point at all. Leave kids alone. You're an adult. Well, Just Jen, let's have a talk, shall we? Now we're going to start with this first point, and we're going to save that last little nugget you said for the end. Trump actually advocated for the LGBT community back before anyone did with Muhammad Ali. Does it matter what he did 20 or 30 or 40 years ago? No, it doesn't. In 2016, when he won that election, he stood on that stage saying he would be the best president ever for the LGBTQ community. And I gave hope. I had hope. I even talked about it on this channel that maybe he would do that maybe he would be good for the LGBTQ community, that maybe he would be good for the American people, maybe he would do good by us Americans. He didn't. One of the first things he did after assuming office in January of 2017 was ban trans people from the military. Within 6 months of that, he had signed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court stating that LGBT people should not have the same rights to jobs and homes as everyone else does. That you should be able to be fired for just being gay. That you should be able to be denied housing just for being gay. Those are things he did. You can look it up. I even have videos of it. Next, you go on to say, so I think you should shut off NBC and CNN. Well, that's lovely to know, but I don't watch them. Like, I'll occasionally click through a website just to get the gist of what they're talking about, and I'll compare it with other mainstream media sources, and then I will take all that and I will go look through independent news sources. And then I will make a video. I don't usually make a video on just a whim. It's not usually how I do it. I'd research everything, I check what everyone has to say, all sides, and then I make a video. So in the end, no, shutting off NBC or MSNBC doesn't change anything because I don't watch them. I just don't. Your rhetoric is false at best. What you're saying here is false. No, it wasn't. In last week's video from Donald Trump, he stated all those things that I stated very clearly. Everything in that video is based off of what he said. For example, he said he was going to go after pharma for making things like puberty blockers and saying that they're hiding, that there's some vast conspiracy of hiding side effects. Generally, those side effects are told to the parents before they are given to their child. If a doctor doesn't, that means they're a bad doctor, not that Big Pharma lied to you about it. And if you look at my channel, you go through and look at some of my videos, you'll see that I am not a fan of Big Pharma either. So if they want to be investigated to make sure they're not hiding things, then great. That sounds awesome. Right? I understand doing that. But as of right now, you can't tell me that they aren't open with at least most of the side effects. I mean, they are kind of required to do so, so they're pretty open about most of the severe ones. But the thing is, do you want your kid to maybe have some adrenal issues 10 or 15 years from now? Or do you want them to unalive themselves now? Because that is what puberty blockers prevent. Because if somebody is so dysphoric that they could commit suicide, especially if they go through the wrong puberty, that they don't feel like they should be, they do get ideas of suicide. They do get ideas of unaliving themselves. Trust me, I was there. Sitting there going through male puberty when I did not like the idea. And that's putting it lightly. There were several times that I wanted to off myself because I was trans and not able to get the help I needed. Because I was terrified. I was terrified for anyone to know. So what I'm saying is not false. Those are things he said. He said he wants to imprison teachers for simply, being an ally. Like I said in my video, it's not about what they do. I'm not saying that the teacher should tell the kid, "Hey, you're trans." No. Like I said in the video, if a kid comes to a teacher and says, "Hey, I might be trans," or "I might be gay, I might be a lesbian, I might be whatever," I'm having problems with it, maybe that teacher should direct the student to a counselor. Okay? No teacher should be teaching children anything sexual in nature. What about sex ed? Age appropriate sex ed. You don't support age appropriate sex ed? To teach kids how not to get knocked up at 14, how not to have gonorrhea, not to get AIDS, not to get syphilis. You don't support that? Now, here's my idea on that, though. When it comes to sex ed, I believe parents should have to sign a consent form whether or not their kid can take a class or a day or whatever, however a school district may go about doing sex ed. I do believe schools should have to get consent from the parents for that to be taught to that individual student. I do not, however, believe that one student's parent not wanting it taught to them should mean that nobody else in the class can be taught sex ed. So yeah, in general, yeah, teachers shouldn't be teaching anything sexual to kids outside of sex ed. And that's generally how it works. The only people I have seen that are grooming children, as you seem to be pointing towards, and doing anything sexual with kids are straight cis men. Interesting. Or sometimes cis women. It's hardly ever a time that I find a story where a LGBTQ person has been sexual with a student. It's almost always straight hetero people. But I agree, teachers should not be teaching sexual things in nature. And talking to a kid who might be trans and telling them that maybe they need to see a counselor, it's not talking about sex because being trans is not about sex. Just like being, cisgender isn't about sex there either, right? Being gay isn't just about being gay. It isn't just about sex. It's just part of who you are. You do enjoy. You might want to have relations with someone of the same gender. Okay, but that's not your whole body. That's not your. I mean, that's not your whole life. That's not everything about you. If you're a heterosexual, are you only thinking about sex all the time? Is that all you ever do is sex, sex, sex? I'm bi and trans, and I don't think about sex all the time. It can be interesting sometimes, but I rarely think of sex. unless, you know, I'm looking for it. So, no. Okay, no, they shouldn't be teaching kids anything sexual, right? I agree with that. Outside of a sex ed class, no, they shouldn't be. And that's not happening in our schools for the most part. And when it has happened, it's mostly been cis hetero teachers, not LGBTQ teachers. Nor should they be hiding anything from us parents, period. Not all parents are bigoted idiots. So, no, I don't see your point at all. Well, here's the thing: teachers aren't supposed to shouldn't be outing children to their parents. It's not their job. Their job is to teach. Their job is not to teach your kids about sex, like you said, and it shouldn't be to out kids to their parents. Because not only could that be detrimental to the child and his or her family situation, but it can also lead the teacher to lawsuits of their own for telling parents that, right? Especially say a student is 17 or 18 in a high school in a state that 17 or 18 is considered an adult, right? Like when I was in Texas, if somebody when I was 17, 18, and somebody had outed me, I guarantee you there would have been a lawsuit. Because not only does a teacher outing a student to the parents create a problem between the parent and the child, possibly, it could put that out to the rest of the public in general. Then other people in the school might know when a kid wasn't trying to be found out. I grew up in a place that terrified me. I grew up in Podunk, East Texas, where being gay was looked at as you were a lesser, being trans was looked at like you were just a complete freak, and that you deserved to die for being so. Now, not everybody would say that out loud, but there were a lot of people that were like that, especially from the churches. So I had to be quiet about everything, regardless if my mother would have been supportive or not. The fact is, there are a lot of bigoted parents out there who would attack their children. I have a lot of friends from high school, a lot of friends from college, and a lot of friends that I have just made over the years whose parents have literally kicked them out of their homes at 13, 14 years old for being gay. So don't tell me parents don't do this shit, because they do. They do it every day. I have a friend now who's almost 60 years old who came out in their 20s and they were kicked out of their family completely. And that's some 20 years ago. And their family still don't talk to them. I've read stories of kids going to school and their teachers outing them to their parents who later committed suicide because of the abuse they received when they got home. I've read stories about kids who were beaten to death by their fathers for being trans or gay. And in some families, it can lead to what they call honor killings. So don't tell me that parents should know everything all the time, because they shouldn't. The child should have a right to keep their sexuality to themselves if they want to, or to not tell their parents about their gender identity. I think a student should have that right. I don't believe parents have complete domain over a child just because they birthed them. I will never believe that. And then you want to talk about leave kids alone. You're an adult. I see your insinuation there. But like I said, the only people I've ever seen molest children, for the most part, have been straight. Um, Leave kids alone. You're an adult. Trying to make as if I'm a pedophile, right? That's what you're aiming at? That I groom children or something just because I'm trans, right? Right? That's what you're saying? You can get out of here with that. Because, one, talk about false. That's false. In fact, my thought on pedophiles is they should be hanging from a tree. Um, that's just my thought, right? I have other videos on that too. Reminds me of that song from Toby Keith and Willie Nelson, "Beer from Our Horses." Talking about finding a big oak tree. Yeah, yeah. That's my thought on pedophiles. But instead of hanging them by their necks, maybe you should hang them by their genitals. I do not support pedophiles whatsoever. I believe they need psychiatric help and might need to be locked away, especially after if they've acted on those impulses. They should definitely be locked away. There should be no, we're going to let you back out. If you do that to a child, you deserve, at least, if nothing else, life in prison. You'll find a video from a good few years back, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, where I discuss what a Texas father did to a man he found harming his 5-year-old daughter. You'll see my thoughts on pedophilia in that video. So, no, I don't mess with kids. I don't particularly like being around kids. They're germ factories. I'm highly immunocompromised. And so, no, no. But your whole concept here is that I made everything up. That I'm fear mongering is what you went on to say in the lower portion of this, um, in an edit you made. But I'm not fear mongering when it's coming straight from their mouth. I'm not fear mongering when a politician says something and I repeat it. It's not how I work. I don't make stuff up here. I base stuff on facts and what people say, straight from their own mouths. And that's what Donald Trump said in his video last week. That in a nutshell, he wants to make it to where not even gay or trans adults exist. He said it in his own video. He said he wants to get rid of anything that does not promote our what is it? Our Judeo-Christian values or the nuclear family. And if you're wanting to get rid of anything that doesn't support your Judeo-Christian values or the nuclear family, then you cannot be supportive of the LGBTQ community. Because if you're going to try to get rid of anything that is the opposite of that, one, that's fascist. That's fascism in a nutshell. But two, you're erasing people. You're going to try to make people like myself, even though I'm in my 40s, hide themselves. But you know what? I refuse. I will not hide myself. I will not put myself back in the bottle. I will not force other people back into a closet. Closets are for clothing, not for people. People like you are the reason we have these problems in this country or in this world in general. Because I'm not 100% sure where you're from. Just Jen Reacts. I don't know where you're from. In fact, I don't care where you're from. As I see it, you're a bigot that hates gay and trans people, and you support a fascist in Donald Trump. So you want to come at me with comments like this? Go ahead. Go ahead. Because I'll be your huckleberry. Trust me. I have no problems with that. So take your 150,000 subscribers and shove them where the sun don't shine, because I don't care what you think. I don't care if you think trans people shouldn't exist. I don't care if you've bought into the BS line that teachers are teaching your kids how to be gay. I don't care if you how you think. Think how you want to. Be how you want to. But remember, at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. And when you get up there to those pearly gates, and you want to know why um, Peter, Saint Peter, is sending you down to the, you know, down to deal with Satan, um, maybe, just maybe, he'll explain to you that hating other people is not something that is supported by the teachings of Jesus Christ. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to hate you. I think you're just misinformed. And it saddens me that you have the following you have by spreading the hate and the misinformation that from I've seen from just a few little videos that you promote. Anyways, this has been the Big Ranch Show. I've been your host, Julie. I'll see you down the road.